We're back, and let me introduce you to actually a new guest. We haven't had him on the show before. I'm putting on my glasses to read his resume. Terry Willis, founder of Terry Worldwide, a Detroit fellow. He lives in Detroit, graduated from McKenzie, went to Wayne State, got a degree in finance, and runs Terry Worldwide, which distributes Home Depot Pro products with an emphasis on building materials and such. And what caught my eye, a number of things, but one of them was he's exploring getting into the cannabis industry in Detroit. And so this show is not really a cannabis show, but when I hear business people coming in from outside wanting to get into cannabis, that sort of intrigues me. So I invited him on the show to talk about that. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
Sure. So talk a little bit about that. So you're doing traditional business stuff, wholesale, retail, that sort of thing, working with Home Depot. And now you're taking a look at doing something with the cannabis industry in Detroit, which is right on the edge of taking off. As you know, there's been a lot of issues in Detroit where it's still starting to come together. It's kind of odd that the state's biggest market is still the one that's lagging the most. But so what do you see the possibilities of doing there?
Well, as an individual who have been born and raised here in Detroit, and I like to say that I know the environment pretty well, and I know, and it can be quite a market. And as you just stated, it's one of the biggest markets in the state, and it still has not been opened up yet to adult use. And so my situation is that the opportunity is there. I'm in business. Why not?
So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you happen to, when did you establish Terry Worldwide LLC, and how did you hit upon that idea for a business?
My business was established back in 2010. Okay. And at that point in time, I established my business because I had a partner of mine. He lived in China at the time. And friends and family, they knew that I had this associate in China. And so everyone was coming to me and said, hey, have you thought about getting into the hair weave business? It's a lot of money there. So I said, okay. I talked to my partner about it, and he shared with me the resources that he had over in China. And we said, okay, let's get started. So that's where it began. But then as I was doing my research into that end of it, then he shared with me about the LED market and the transformation that was changing from incandescent over to LED. And so we migrated there. And as I began to learn about that business, yes, we may have had the contacts and resources, but the issue there was we had something to deal with called Made in America. And along with that, I guess I can say that at that point in time, I just was not sophisticated enough to understand the pieces involved about bringing them in here and adding pieces there. And so I moved on.
All right, so how did you get hooked up with Home Depot?
A couple of years ago, a friend of mine, and actually it was during COVID, a friend of mine, he contacted me, and he lives in Texas, and he has a chemical company down there, and I've done some business with him over the years. And he shared with me that he had a contact in Home Depot Pro, and he said, Terry, I think it would be good for you to meet this gentleman. He may have something for you. So he introduced us, and from that point on, I listened to what they were doing, and of course, and him being that my firm is a supplier of goods, and they have lots of goods and lots of stuff, I said, why not? And so I went through their process of application, and I was accepted, and I've been moving forward with it ever since. I'm still looking for the big sales from it, but I'm working towards it.
All right, so would you fancy yourself sort of an import exporter kind of thing? I mean, we're trying to find a way to kind of define what you do. Would that be a good way to define it?
That would be a good way, very good way. And it's not just those products because I also have distribution for plywood and other wood products in Vietnam. And I have another distribution agreement with the gentleman. He mines the Himalayan pink salt products from the mountains in Pakistan. But those two areas have been on hold because of the product disruptions all over the world.
Yeah, supply chains are really messed up.
Messed up totally.
And that's part of the reason why we have the high inflation is a huge demand, limited supply. If you know the economics of it, that drives up prices, right?
Yes.
So, but getting back to cannabis, and so this would be something that you would do in addition to all the other things that you do, or how do you figure this out?
Well, yes, it would. And I would be remiss if I didn't say all of this is just something I can't keep doing alone. I mean, yes, I have partners that I work with, but it's about building that team as I move forward.
Yeah, it's always about
especially
the
when it comes to
team.
the cannabis.
Yeah. So when you say you want to, I start thinking about a provisioning center, grow, processing, what exactly? Or just there's a lot of companies that supply stuff like what you just talked about to the cannabis industry that don't actually touch the plant. So what are you thinking?
I first began thinking about the retail itself, a dispensary. But then as I began to uncover more and more about the cannabis industry, I kind of migrated over to the micro business end of it, which entails everything in which you just stated, grow,
Right.
process, and sell. And I'm still there at this point in time. And of course, I'm just waiting on the air to clear out regarding the legal matters that the city of Detroit is entangled in so that I can decide which way and when am I actually going to step into the market. In the interim, I'm educating myself as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, the problem with the micro licenses, you can only sell your own product. You can't sell other products in your store. At least that's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are correct. And that's one of the areas in which I guess I have my big question marks with as well. Especially if I have a facility that's doing a great business. I mean, I don't want to be held captive to only my product. So
Yeah, there's only a couple of micro, I think 3 or 4. We just had Andrew Brisboe on my other show on 420 Post last week. He's the director of the Michigan Marijuana Regulatory Association, or excuse me, agency. And I believe he said there's only 3 licenses and maybe only 1 or 2 operators out there. That's a really tough road to hoe because we get back to your product has to be pretty outstanding because that's all you're going to sell is your product.
And I've been looking at that closely, and I'm still walking the line regarding micro or just a regular retail / dispensary.
Yeah, Matthew?
So where is the city in terms of allowing dispensaries in the city and other operations?
The city is, the issue is still before the court / judge. And from everything I'm hearing, he's going to rule on the matter somewhere around August, September.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And so everybody's on hold and everyone still trying to prepare themselves. And I'm one of them.
Yeah, talk about paralyzing folks in
Yes.
Detroit. That's all. And considering how much upfront money that you have to invest in these things, I mean, I have friends that have had this discussion with me because we cover the industry, and I tell them if you don't have $1 million, don't bother to even go into it because it's a lot more expensive than you think. And then in the beginning, it's like any other business, you're building it up, and so you don't have the clientele, so you got to have the cash flow or the money in the bank or the line of credit to cover you while you build up the business. It's a lot tougher than people might imagine.
And it is an area that others whom I am associated with there in Detroit, we all have that concern. Where are we going to obtain the amounts of capital to open
Big
our
money.
doors?
Big money, yeah. So,
Big money. And it's a great inhibitor. a great inhibitor. But I just keep moving forward.
And I
Well,
know, go ahead, Matt.
it is, I was just gonna point out that it is forecast to be a $4 billion business this year in Michigan. So there certainly is cash flow out there, but you just have to figure out a way to get set up to get it. So.
Correct. And I've looked at a couple of different sources. And in all due respects, I've had two sources who quasi knocked on my door. And I just haven't moved in that direction yet because I feel that I still have time to work out some other matters, how to see what I can possibly raise.
Yeah, and the other thing that is going on in Detroit is if you look at the people who are in jail who have been impacted, now it's all legal, but when they were doing it wasn't, is about 40% of them are people of color, whereas in the industry itself, only 3 or 4% is people of color. And I know Detroit is really trying to rectify that right now by, I wouldn't say leaning in the direction of people of color to help them, but that's part of what they would like to see happen. So certainly that would be somewhat of an edge for you there. But as I get back to it's a lot more difficult business than people think, and it's a lot more expensive than people think. But so we certainly wish you luck with that.
Thank you very much. And just to touch on what you said regarding those people of color who have been
Incarcerated, yes.
Incarcerated and impacted from it. And I guess that is the foremost reason that Detroit was trying to implement its Detroit Legacy program.
Right.
Trying to give those from Detroit who were, victims of the drug laws, give them an opportunity to enter this market. And that is the sticking point right now in the courts as to how they're going to implement this Detroit Legacy program of theirs, if there's going to be a Detroit Legacy.
Yeah. Well, still, we've only been legal for a little over 2 years, so it's still pretty much an evolving market. But as Matt pointed out, it's really taken off. We just had the latest numbers come in last week for 2021, $1.8 billion in adult use and medical marijuana sales. And then anywhere from 3 to 4 billion is the projection this year, depending on so many factors. And it's only the second week or in January, so we can't really say whether those are accurate or not. But certainly there's a lot of opportunity. But it's a very difficult market, and it's consolidating very quickly. You have a lot of multi-state operators coming in. You have the bell tire people who are behind Loom. They've already got 30 stores open, plan to have 100 open in 2 years. So there's big money players in there.
Yes, there are. In some way, come hell, rain, sleet, or snow, I hope to be one of those players as well.
All right, Terry. Well, here's a chance for you to promote how folks can reach out to you, your website, email, whatever you want to provide the audience. Feel free.
You can reach me at my email address, which is, I will say it and then I will take it apart. It is TerryWorldWide.com. That is Terry, TERRY, at one word, TerryWorldWide.com. And that is how you can reach me.